Hey YouTube, this is Michael from Zone Robotics, and this is another bi-weekly update. So this bot right here, last week I was trying to work out, how all this was going to work. I found out since then that when I use these IDC connectors like these, I can make them small and they will transmit the image pretty well back to the robot. But the pinout isn't exactly the same, so I can either plug the camera, I can plug a camera directly into a female connector over here, or I can have the IDC connector, but the pinout would be completely swapped on the board that's just under the discovery board. So basically it would require a pretty heavy change to the board to be able to use the IDC connector for the camera. And I did try and solder one on and change the pins around as much as I could. It worked for a while and then wasn't very stable. So I just decided to go back to the original plan and not have a moving camera. But I'll kind of show some other issues that I found with this one. See, you've got this IDC connector, and I've got the camera pivoting on these two kind of L brackets. You can pull this whole thing out and put it back in. All that seemed to be a pretty good idea. The only issue I had was if this axis and this axis aren't completely 100% aligned, then it's actually twisting as it's turning, so the servo's constantly fighting, and you get kind of this this vibrating noise that it makes as it tries to hold position and cannot. But other than that, whenever we decide to revise the board and swap these pins down here, then it should work out pretty good. I think any major revision I do to the board, I will definitely swap those pins around, because even with a fixed camera, we can use one of these IDC connectors and just kind of account for it. So that's what it looks like. Not really, if you go too far, are you stretching it out? And if you go back and over, is it pushing against something and constantly fighting against something? But that would definitely give you, the the ability to look directly at something on the ground, and the ability to look a little bit up and in front of you, depending where you put the servo at. This is something we'll continue to work on, but this is not going to be in the first revision. Because pretty much the board and everything was designed for a fixed camera. So just unplug that guy, and I have already built the next one. I got this one up and running all within 4 hours, even though I had to solder this bottom board. The bottom of the robot, I'm pretty happy with that. I did change the sides a little bit so the servos will fit right in here in the sides for future use. As far as the top goes, I've been making some tops, but it's kind of harder to deal with the tops if they're really large. So then I've kind of gone off to make little connectors like this that go in the side, and then the screw will come up from the bottom and it'll go through this hole, and then on the top there will be another board kind of like this, and then the screw goes in from the top and it just holds the whole thing together. It leaves a big hole here in the front so we can deal with the camera and the wireless device. So once we plug in the wireless and plug in the camera, then as you can see there's plenty of space. The main purpose of this thing being to hold down these little plates so this thing can't pop up and out. But that way you can print smaller parts, and if you have some issue with your part, you can, you don't end up having to throw away a giant piece like this, because something like this might take 2 hours to print, whereas something like this takes less than an hour. And it's much easier for the printer to print this. It'll be much easier to cast and mold a piece like this. And then the top piece, I'm going to make it 2 millimeters, so once we put the top piece on, it could also be just cut out of acrylic or anything else and kind of be layered. This does add a couple of pieces to the design, but it doesn't really hurt it much. I also put the like a little slot back here so that we'll be able to put like a door down in the slot to cover the back, and then when we put the top on, it'll kind of close the whole thing in together. And that's that. So that's all that's happened in the past couple of weeks. Hopefully by the next week I'll have this guy completely finished. This one, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. There hasn't been things soldered multiple times or anything. This one was a very solid version. So from this one on, those should all be robots that I can either give or sell to other people for prototype testing. And that's it for this bi-weekly update. See you guys in 2 weeks.